Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zhang here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Ranked, where I climb the online VGC 15 ladder and provide live commentary as I go, as we're just going to jump into today's episode, still rocking the sand team we've been featuring last week and in yesterday's episode. And if you have not seen that, I highly recommend you check it out since it was a pretty intense episode. We're going to find Sync from Texas immediately with a rating of 1759 to kick off the day, as our rating currently is just around there as well. He's rocking a team of Kangaskhan, Landers, T, Amoonguss, Rotom, Heat, Suicune, and Aegislash, so pretty standard looking team. Actually has 5 of the 6 same Pokemon that Billa used to finish in the top 4 at Germany Nationals. He had Kangaskhan, Landorus, Rotom, Heat, Suicune, Aegislash, and Breloom instead of Amoonguss. So very similar team in function here. And definitely a scary one. I mean, Mega Kangaskhan's obviously always a threat. Landorus is always a threat to this team as well, given my reliance on physical type attackers like Tyranitar and Excadrill. But let's see what I want to lead with here. I kind of like leading with Salamence just because I can't get infected by Intimidate, obviously. Next to maybe Rotom Wash with the Amoonguss in the back. I like that. I think Aegislash is the last one. So I'm going to keep Sand, I think, around. Not in this game, just because not exactly the best Pokemon to bring. You know, Suicune can take Tyranitar and Excadrill's attacks. It can set up Tailwind. It can get a Scald off, which can always burn. Rotom Heat can burn. It can survive a Rock Slide, most likely, unless it's a really offensive Rotom. Landers can Intimidate. Kangaskhan can Low Kick / Power Up Punch. Amoonguss can put me to sleep. And Aegislash can Spore. So it's one of the games where it's like, normally you want to bring Tyranitar Excadrill if you have really good coverage with Rock Slide and Earthquake, but Landers is always one of the Pokemon that scares me away from bringing it, especially because of how well Landers checks it itself. So I'm just gonna not bring Tyranitar or Excadrill this game. And I don't know, I want Aegislash here because I needed to beat my opponent's Aegislash, but this is definitely a tough matchup in terms of Pokemon wise. I think anytime I see an opposing Amoonguss, that's always a bit difficult as well. Since I don't have a Lum user, you know, my main reliance on beating Amoonguss is heavily damaging it, switching into my own Amoonguss. But I'm gonna go with my Salamence and Rotom Wash lead, which I feel like gives me options against most of what my opponent can go with. As we do see the Kangaskhan and Landorus, and that's actually quite ideal for me here, basically because of the fact that you know, I get the Intimidate off against 2 physical type attackers, which can go a long way. So this is really great, and he's pretty weak to Hyper Voice in general, so, you know, I'm definitely going to want to just start spamming that immediately. Now, I feel like he's probably going to want to U-turn out, but I guess he could also Rock Slide and fake out Rotom. But I'm going to Hyper Voice here. Who do I have in the back? Amoonguss and Aegislash. I could also switch out into Amoonguss to take the fake out immediately. But I think I'm just going to Hyper Voice here, and what do I want to do? Will-O-Wisp the Kangaskhan? Yeah, I like that play. Kangaskhan switches out, which is a smart play on my opponent's end. Is Rotom Heat coming in? Yep, nicely played there. So I presume Landers is going to U-turn out to reshuffle the Intimidate. But maybe we'll just see a Rock Slide come out as well. And if it's a Rock Slide, that's fine, because looks like he has no real answer to my Rotom Wash right now. But nope, he goes for that U-turn. So basically get a free turn of damage here with a Hyper Voice, but presumably that Landers is going to switch into maybe the Aegislash. If it switches into Amoonguss, or actually Suicune would be a fine switch in here as well, but I think it's pretty clear right now that Salamence Rotom Wash is really solid against all of my opponent's team. But an excellent turn 1 on his end there, as he just goes into Aegislash and Rotom, so really avoiding any damage that first turn. Very smartly played, as Will-O-Wisp obviously does not affect Rotom Heat. Looks like he's the Leftovers variant, which is good to confirm. So I'm a speedy Rotom, as I've mentioned before, so I can outspeed him, get some big damage off. Presumably he's going to protect with Rotom here. And I think he knows how big of a threat my Rotom is. I don't want to Flamethrower into the Aegislash because it can activate a weakness policy. Though I guess I could potentially Flamethrower Aegislash here and protect with Rotom. I'm going to do that. I'm anticipating his Rotom protecting. And I think he's going to want to Shadow Ball into my Rotom Wash. Oh, but he King Shields. Interesting. Okay, so what is his Rotom? His Rotom Heat's Thunderbolting my Salamence, I guess? No, we see the Will-O-Wisp to Rotom Wash. Maybe expecting a switch out there. Okay, interesting turn of events. That's fine. Okay, so I don't want to walk into a weakness policy, so I'm actually going to go for the Will-O-Wisp, or I could just Thunderbolt, I guess. No, I want the Will-O-Wisp, though. I just really like the residual damage I can get here. The Though, I guess this is one thing that me as a player typically has an issue with. Like, I should probably be going for offense more often than Will-O-Wisp. I just really like residual damage, you know. It really adds up quickly. But I think if I went for a Thunderbolt, Flamethrower might have been able to knock it out. The main thing here is I can, you know, play around Protects to make sure it's in Flamethrower KO range. Though Aegislash, I guess, will be stance changing here to attack anyway. So the real question here is, what does he do with that Rotom? It might have been a bit better to just Hydro Pump into it, but like I said, I really don't want to walk into a weakness policy. I'm predicting his Rotom Heat here to protect, but maybe he's just going to anticipate that. It's not like he has really great switch-ins either, which is why I would think he would protect, but I guess a Kangaskhan could potentially switch in. That was a really good turn one on his end though, but Aegislash is switching out, which is even better for me because I get a free burn off against his Kangaskhan. Very interesting. So I just get free damage off here with my Dragon Pulse and the Will-O-Wisp, so that was like a pretty ideal turn. Dragon Pulse does a fair amount, as Rotom once again goes for the Will-O-Wisp onto my Rotom Wash slot. Very interesting play. Hopefully I don't miss my Will-O-Wisp here. It does connect with Kangaskhan, that is huge. Excellent, excellent. So that's great for me. Basically the best turn I could have asked for. Other than, I guess, him connecting with Will-O-Wisp onto Rotom Wash. But this is really good. So let's see. No, I want to do this in the next turn. I mean, of course he can fake out, but yeah, I would think he would fake out Rotom Wash here, right? So in anticipation of that, I kind of want to protect and switch out into my Amoonguss. I'm gonna go for that. Just because basically what this will allow me to do is with the Rocky Helmet and burn damage, I think he'll actually be in Hyper Voice KO range, and that'll kind of force him to overheat the Rotom slot. The main issue right now for me is Landorus T is always an issue, and one of the issues I have with playing with this team is losing my Rotom too quickly before Landorus. However, the nice thing against facing Scarf Landorus is the fact that, you know, if I have Salamence and something like Tyranitar, Excadrill, or even Amoonguss, you know, it forces him to choose between Rock Slide and Earthquake, and you're almost always going to be Rock Sliding in that case, just because of the fact that you can't afford to Earthquake against the Salamence, obviously, because you just lose the game. So that's what I have going for me. I'm just going to try to make this Kangaskhan really take a lot of damage. Let's see if my opponent predicts the switch out, maybe going for a overheat onto that. But he does go for the fake out, which is what I was anticipating. So with that burn, he does absolutely nothing. You see how much the Rocky Helmet's helping me out here, because Rocky Helmet plus the burn damage, I believe, will put him in Hyper Voice KO range, which is what I'm going for right now. He goes for the Will-O-Wisp onto the Salamence slot, so this Rotom has literally only used Will-O-Wisp so far. I'm wondering if he even has any other attacks right now. Obviously it does, but kind of interesting to see him only use Will-O-Wisp. So this next turn, I am just going to go for the Hyper Voice, and I think I'm going to switch Amoonguss back out into my Rotom Wash here. I'm just going to play it safe here, just because Amoonguss is a pretty good answer to the Aegislash and the Landorus in the back, because if I can put it into sleep, then my Aegislash in the back ends up winning the game. He's actually going to be switching out the Kangaskhan, probably back out into the Aegislash, which is a really good play on his end. One that I probably should have predicted a bit better. And I'm kind of mad for walking into this one. So we kind of put ourselves in a similar position from where we were a couple of turns ago. But I do get free damage off here. I suspect Rotom Heat's just going to go for a Thunderbolt onto my Salamence. Oh, wow, he actually went for the overheat. Okay, cool. So that's obviously not going to do very much to my Rotom Wash, as it really takes that quite nicely. So I'm going to be able to heal back from the Citrus Berry, and this is looking like a pretty solid game. A very long and drawn out one, but I like these games, you know, one where it's just you trying to outskill your opponent, both players making good plays throughout the course of the game. So definitely an intense match so far. So Rotom Heat having taken that much damage, or I mean, that's good. I think the question is, do I want to So once again, I still don't want to activate a potential weakness policy. I think I'm just gonna Dragon Pulse. Well, I also don't want to take too much damage with my Salamence, that's the thing. I mean, I could protect Hydro Pump the Rotom slot, but he could just... Yeah, you know what, that's what I'm gonna go for. I don't know if he has Substitute yet, that's what I'm waiting to see. Given that he doesn't have leftovers though, I don't think so. So I'm gonna bait him into Blade form. Like, he finally protects with Rotom. Okay, so he does carry it. Probably could have Will-O-Wisp the Aegislash here. Regardless, this is fine. I want a free switch in should he choose to attack here. So Aegislash finally does stance change. Looks like we're going to be seeing a Shadow Ball onto the Rotom slot, so my opponent making some plays here. So that was a really, really good turn for my opponent. Is that enough to knock out Rotom? It's not, as he's Life Orb Aegislash. Wow, so he's running the same Life Orb Aegislash that I'm running. That's interesting. As Rotom is going to faint from the burn here. Yeah. So nicely done by my opponent. That was a really clever turn. One that I basically lost all momentum. Does confirm the Life Orb over weakness policy though, which is obviously good news for me. Let's see, I'm going to bring in my Aegislash here, I think. Yeah. And I'm just gonna Flamethrower his Aegislash and Shadow Ball the Rotom. Yeah. So his Rotom could switch out into Kangaskhan here, or Landorus, or he could choose to Overheat / Will-O-Wisp. I'm fine with any of the options here. I mean, most likely his Aegislash is going to be King Shielding, but I can heavily punish him, and there's little reason not to Flamethrower that slot, since Shadow Ball's KOing the Rotom, and it'll do heavy damage. I guess the one thing I could anticipate is a Landorus switch in here, but I'm just going to try to see if he, anticipates me doubling up into his Rotom slot, and I'm just going to play it as safe as possible. But that was a really big turn by my opponent last turn, one that definitely puts me back a fair amount. So I'm going to try to recover from that turn. But I mean, I still feel decent having a Amoonguss in the back as well. That can definitely help out. Rotom switches out. Let's see if it's going to be Kangaskhan switching in here, because that can definitely help out my opponent. Yep, it is going to be Kangaskhan. So the question here is, does Aegislash choose to attack, or does he stance change? He is going to stance change, so that's a perfect turn for my opponent. One that I also don't mind too much, though, just because this next turn I can just protect King Shield as Flamethrower goes into the Aegislash. So I could have potentially predicted it and targeted the Kangaskhan slot with a Flash Cannon, but wasn't really willing to do that. So this next turn, yeah, I'm just going to protect in King Shield here, because this baits the Aegislash Black into Sword form. Though I guess he might actually switch out into Landorus or Rotom here. So I probably should be capitalizing a bit more off these plays. And I'm losing momentum slowly since I already lost that Rotom Wash earlier on in the match. So it's not good losing that Rotom Wash. And right now we have quite a long drawn out match. Just a lot of protects, a lot of switching, trying to regain momentum on either sides. I was pretty lucky to get that bird onto Kangaskhan, but I did lose a lot of momentum not going for the Will-O-Wisp onto that Aegislash slot, or a Thunderbolt even to put it in Flamethrower KO range. But looks like he's not going to switch out with either of his Pokemon, so this turn ends up being a pretty free turn. I suspect we're just going to see the Aegislash go for another attack, though. I mean, I assume he has Wide Guard as his last one. That would make the most sense, since most Aegislashes that are offensive carry Wide Guard as his last attack. So he just says go for Fake Out onto Salamence, and looks like he's just going to be attacking once again with Aegislash, so that's good for me. It's going to be a Shadow Ball, yep, into Salamence. So, that's obviously fine by me. Let's see. So, obviously, the play here is just a Flamethrower, but, I mean, it's so obvious he's going to King Shield, I think. So, you could also just Dragon Pulse Kangaskhan, play it safe, and Shadow Ball the Aegislash. I'm going to go for that. Of course, it's a bit risky should he choose to not King Shield with Aegislash, and if he outspeeds me, Life Orb Aegislash might be enough to actually knock out my own. But I don't think my opponent's going to risk that. I mean, I could have obviously went for the Flamethrower Flash Cannon play, but the thing is, with Dragon Pulse and Shadow Ball, this punishes any switches my opponent can make. So if he switches anything out, it's going to be taking a ton of damage. If he stays in, Kangaskhan's obviously going down this turn unless he switches out. Aegislash will be taking a lot of damage as well. So, let's see. Okay, he just makes the safe play of going for Stance Change, so unless he Sucker Punches here, Dragon Pulse should be able to knock out the Kangaskhan. So the Aegislash Mirror matchup here is real. I don't know how fast he is either, which is kind of problematic. He does go for the Sucker Punch into the Aegislash. That's really interesting, because he could have activated a Weakness Policy there, so I'm kind of curious about my opponent's decision to go for that play. But I guess if anything, it just allows him to switch into that Rotom Heat now. Dragon Pulse will be able to pick up the KO into Kangaskhan, but I kind of lose some momentum and take unnecessary damage with my Aegislash, which is obviously bad. So Shadow Ball obviously going into the King Shield here, and this is why I wanted to get that Will-O-Wisp off way earlier on in the match, just because, you see how many turns this Aegislash has been on the field. So he actually brings in Landorus, which is kind of an interesting decision, especially with Wide Guard on my end. So let's see. Wonder what he's gonna go for. I mean, I think here I'm just gonna protect in King Shield, honestly. Yeah, I'm going to do that. There's little downside to going for this play. I want to see what Landorus chooses to lock itself into. I mean, I think it's obviously going to be Rock Slide. But I mean, he might also want to U-turn out here, but by doing this play, I protect myself from taking any damage here. Aegislash is going to be, probably turning into Sword form or Blade form, so I can just Flamethrower at that slot. So I don't know, there's little downside to the play here that I'm making. If anything, right now the thing I'm most scared of is the Amoonguss that he has in the back. Not the Amoonguss, the Rotom Heat, because my Amoonguss can't deal with that. If I can knock out the Rotom Heat, then I feel a bit better. He's going to be staying in with Pokemon, so we're going to see what Landorus chooses to lock itself into, as this is a pretty good turn for me. I think one that will definitely give me a lot of momentum going into this next turn. So Aegislash is going to King Shield. Landorus chooses to Rock Slide. Okay, so he's just going to lock himself into Rock Slide. And his Aegislash is going to go for the Shadow Ball, presumably. Yep, onto my Aegislash. Okay. So, the question here is, I wide guard, do I predict him to change forms once again with Aegislash? I really want to predict it and go for a Hyper Voice. Yeah, I really want a Hyper Voice and King wide guard here. That's what I'm going to go for. Let's see if he... Okay, so I get the wide guard off. Does he stance change with his Aegislash? No, he doesn't. Wow, what a smart play on his end. So I could have won this game just by going for the Flamethrower this turn, but actually I don't know how much Hyper Voice does. Still does a significant amount there. He's going to go for the Shadow Ball, probably targeting my Salamence. Oh no, he targets Aegislash instead. Well, that knocks me out, but now I get a free switch into Amoonguss. This is really coming down to the wire now. He still has one more turn of Life Orb damage. Okay. So I'm going to bring in Amoonguss here. And this is what I'm going to go for. I'm going to Dragon Pulse the Aegislash instead. And I'm going to Spore the Landorus. Or I could protect here. No, but I think I really need to knock... I can't afford to take a Shadow Ball until the Amoonguss slot, which I assume is what he's going to be going for. Though I guess I could have Hyper Voiced here as well, but I don't want to walk into a wide guard. Okay, so yeah, I could have Hyper Voiced here. As long as he doesn't flinch me, this turn works out alright. Let's see. Does he get the flinch? Okay, nope, I get the Dragon Pulse off. So that's going to be able to knock out the Aegislash, and obviously I'm going to go for Dragon Pulse over Flamethrower, because, you know, punishes the Rotom switch in. So Aegislash goes down. And I get the Spore off against the Landorus. So now it's a Salamence and a Amoonguss against a Sleepin' Landorus and a Rotom Heat. I mean, he kind of has to overheat though, that's the thing. I'm just gonna Hyper Voice, and I mean, he's got to overheat, so I can protect. I can also just Spore, because then Thunderbolt won't be knocking me out. Or I could just protect. You know, I'm going to Spore in the off chance he decides to go for the Thunderbolt play into Salamence. But, yeah, this is a really, really long match. Let's see what we can do. I might actually be just calling it a day after this match, just because I actually don't have enough time to get, or not enough time, but, you know, this match is almost at 20 minutes already, and another one would probably put this episode at like 35 minutes, so, given how good this game was, you know, I think I'm just going to call it a game after this one. Oh, wow, so I don't knock out Landorus with the Hyper Voice, but he goes for the Will-O-Wisp onto Salamence, so I do successfully put the Rotom Heat to sleep. So I think this is tough now. Just because if he wakes up with Landorus, then I outright lose this game. So I think I kind of have to protect and Giga Drain here. But the thing is, I do allow my opponent's Rotom to get a chance to wake up, so this is so close. Or I could just Dragon Pulse Rotom and Giga Drain. Yeah, I'm just gonna... Rock Slide's not gonna KO me. Okay, he stays asleep. Perfect. So that should seal up the game for me. So it was kind of a risky play, but I couldn't afford risking more sleep turns there. I mean, if I just went for the Dragon Pulse Giga Drain play, obviously it would have been fine until the Landorus slot. But now that Rotom is in KO range from another Dragon Pulse, so this might be the longest game I've ever featured on Road to Ranked, but it's a really good one at that. You know, little RNG, just smart playing, switches throughout the entire thing, and it was nice that I was able to really get status inflictions against, for example, the Landorus and the Rotom. So now it's at the point where Rotom's obviously just going to feign from the Dragon Pulse. That was a smart Will-O-Wisp against the Salamence, so I really like that play from my opponents, and probably should have went for the Rage Powder in anticipation of that maybe, but I just wanted to put it to sleep if anything. So now I can just Dragon Pulse and finally seal up the game in one of the longest matches really ever on Road to Rank, clocking in at almost 20 minutes. So yeah, today's episode is just going to feature one game just because I have a couple of things I have to do later today. I did want to get at least an episode out for you guys though, and just because this game was so long, you know, and it was a really good game at that as well, I'm just going to call it, you know, a day for this one. But thanks for tuning in. A 20-minute match basically, or a 20-minute episode with one game. Great game to sync there. I thought that was a fantastic game, one that had little RNG and just smart playing overall, just trying to, you know, make the better move every turn. And those are the games that you really enjoy playing, especially when there's little RNG involved. So that was a fantastic game. But yeah, that's going to be it for this episode, guys. Calling it short for today, but thanks for tuning in as always. Hope you guys liked that game. As always, leave a like if you did, and I shall see you next time. Alright, peace.